Hi there. We're rolling. This is my friend Kamala.
Hi.
We are here at Integral Yoga, and we're actually in the back garden. We're facing it so that the sun can face us, but it is actually does go back here a bit.
Beautiful.
It is really pretty.
Lots of flowers out.
And Kamala is also a teacher here. In fact, in minutes, she's going to be finishing with the meditation teacher training.
Meditation teacher training.
This is the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, coming
and
to
this
the
is
end.
the end of my seminarian training.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow, high five on that one.
Exactly.
Well, we were trying to figure out when we met here, and it must have been. I mean, did we do a teacher training, Raja Yoga teacher training together?
We did do Raja teacher training together. Oh,
and I feel like we might have known each other before, somewhat before.
I think we did, but I think
that's
that
still
was
like 2011.
That sounds right.
Something like that.
2011.
So, handful of years here.
Yes.
We also did a program together where we taught yoga at...
Oh, yeah. At St. Vincent de Paul Wellness Center.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That was a special place.
Yeah, and so I'm happy that I'm having her join me for the reading from the Golden Present Daily Inspirational... it's hard to focus. Daily Inspirational Readings by Sri Swami Satchidananda. And we're reading from May 9th. All right, so this is the topic.
Okay.
Your only responsibility. When we want to understand God's will, God has a way of helping us subdue our ego. In a way, ego is always dependent on the spirit. We are never independent in that respect. But once we consciously submit ourselves completely to that spirit, then we are independent because God's will takes over.
Then instead of saying, I am doing it, the ego will say, I am an instrument. I am being used by his will. You recognize that he is doing everything. There's nothing for you to do. There's no responsibility for you. Your only responsibility is to surrender yourself into his hands and allow him to do everything. That means allow the consciousness to function through you. Love
Boom. That's it. Only one responsibility. It's your only responsibility.
I love it.
How do you feel that works in your life? Like, do you feel you're able to surrender that much of your ego can offer up that?
The one time I did that I really felt like I did that purely was during my qualifying teacher training class.
For
was
which
really
one?
amazing.
Basic?
For basic TT,
wow.
my very first entire yoga class I ever taught, and it was the test. And I was
intense moment.
So nervous.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time taking a deep breath, and I just felt very jittery inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remembered my teacher. I'm forgetting his name now. It's so funny. I was just talking Sadashiva.
Oh, Sadashiva, yeah.
Sadashiva, I remember him.
Hi, Sadashiva, if you're out there.
Hello. I remember him telling us this, giving us this lesson. And I sat and I just really tried to take that in. And then I taught my class, and it was like something was just coming through me.
Wow.
I still say it was the best class I've ever taught. Even after teaching for 7 years, I still say that was the best class I ever taught.
Because you really did surrender.
I did.
And there probably was something to that process where you were getting nervous because probably you were feeling like you had to figure everything out. You had to be sure to remember everything. You had to be sure. And once you just kind of, resolved to the fact you got to do it,
mm-hmm.
and just to let it happen,
mm-hmm.
that something shifted in that. I like that. I like thinking about that as a process, that it's in those moments where we're holding on so tightly, that could be the opportunity for that grace to happen and that connection.
Yeah.
Mm.
How about you? Do you have an experience of that, or does this speak to you?
Well, it definitely does. I mean, that's part of I would say it's a big impulse for why I'm doing these readings, is that I'm wanting to share these teachings, the yogic teachings. It's why I like to not read ahead and plan ahead, to just allow whatever's going to come through in the moment. and then in this moment, and in each moment to just be as guided as it can be through me, so that I'm practicing getting out of my own way when I'm talking, when I'm sharing these, that it's based off of not my own design as much as it is, what's happening in this book and what I read for the day, to just go, okay, I'll align with that. Yeah. I'll choose that as my offering. And how can I practice being less attached to the outcome of this, and just enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey of letting this flow through me, and trust that it's this other source that's flowing through me. In this case, it feels like Swami Satchidananda first is giving me some inspiration, and then this other divine energy is just coming through to keep me doing this every day, right? Because it's otherwise, if I thought too much about it, I think, oh no, I can't do this. It's too much. It's way too much of a commitment, which I'll often hear from others and have heard myself say when we're trying to develop any kind of a practice. Like, do I have to do this for the rest of my life? Right. I just do it one day at a time. Yeah, absolutely. One day at a time. And my only responsibility is to just show up and, trust that there is some grace that's moving through me, and to let it be a practice. Yeah. That's what came up for me.
That actually reminds me of the teaching that you discussed before we even began about letting it be play.
Yes.
Right? Because then when we surrender, we can just let it be fun, let it be play.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I've loved about Swami Satchidananda, and even though I didn't know him personally, but getting to see his videos, and, we learn from him that he's got this playful way of sharing the teachings, which is what reminds me of a lot of our Swamis, how they are with these teachings. Because I think I have a tendency to get very serious and very heavy-headed about some of these teachings, and can forget that it is all for play. It is, there can be a joy in this as a choice, versus that it has to be labored and intense and morose. And the reason for that is because life can be challenging, right? Life can feel unplayful, unjoyful. We think about some things that are going on in the world, right? We could just think and there are horrible things happening. Some of them beyond what we even know. When I'll learn of some other news, and I'm like, what? And I didn't even know these things are happening. And
entire countries or populations being affected. And, oh, this is happening.
Yeah, by certain choices, And so we can get pulled down and think like it's all going to a difficult place.
Yes.
Or we can, not that we want to say, oh, it's play, just, but that we can keep this light within us that helps remind us that there's a greater perspective here that we might not be able to have in the moment. Yeah. And that often is the case when we look back at you look back at your basic teacher training. In that moment, that was the most intense, like almost awful thing. And I remember too, my heart was beating, I'm sweating, I'm like, you're thinking you're going to forget absolutely everything. Right. It just feels like one of the worst. Like, why do I have to go through this? But now you appreciate it. And I know I appreciate mine because it's still with me. All that work and effort to memorize that script and to get it, like, it's kind of still with me. Yeah. And I see other students go through it, and I try to reassure them that, hang in there. They're thinking this is the worst thing ever, and I'm trying to, reassure them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right, I remember. Yeah. And when it comes to difficult things happening in the world, what helps me is to think that I can work for peace around the world. I can work for justice, and I can try to find some play in my work. So not to say, oh, forget that, that's all play, but to think, I want to help, I want to step in, I want to be a part of this, but can I make my work joyful? Can I find a place within me that can still find that light, like you said, and move from there? And I think I'm so much more effective those times I'm able to do that.
Amen. Makes me think of that idea of a spiritual warrior or a peaceful warrior, that there's still that effort towards, helping some radical change happen, but coming from that place where there's that light within you that's bringing it forward, versus the anger or out of
Yeah.
frustration
Yeah.
or, this is wrong, I'm going to it's like,
Yeah.
actually, let's just move forward with that, peace in our hands
Yeah.
and in our hearts.
Yeah. And see those other emotions, right? Because they come up. It's so, I mean, I open my email. Oh, I have to go there. Yep, there's the
There it
frustration.
is. There, yeah.
There's the,
And then what do
all
you
of
do?
that, right?
You take a deep breath. You bring in the practices that
Yes.
remind us.
Yes.
Because even in that, is God having us experience the frustration too,
Right.
to teach us that, we can transform that, or we can learn from that, to understand we are these dynamic beings. We're going to get these moments where we get frustrated or whatever, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That means allow the consciousness to function through you. Yeah. I am an instrument. I am being used by His will. Well, I think we're going to close it there, since you've got to get in there. And thank you so much for getting to make time for this to happen. And I'm going to be ever so grateful if we can get to share this again sometime.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that.
All right, good. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
thank you all.
everybody.
And I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.
Bye.